Revelation 3166. From the 21st of June 1944. Faith struggle. The earthly battle will be ended and instead the battle will break out which is directed against faith and against everything spiritual. This has also been announced before so that people will recognize when the end is near, for this battle precedes the final end. Both people and God demand the final decision, only that people demand that faith be rejected while God demands that he be acknowledged, and this decision has to be made without fail. The battle for faith is still far more important than the battle for earthly goods and earthly power, for now it will become apparent to what extent humanity is still God-bound, to what extent it makes use of the strength from God and thus resists the world's desire. It will become apparent what immense strength is hidden in faith, that is, how much more powerful is the person who believes deeply and thereby also lives according to God's will. For he does not need to be active on his own but is always in contact with God and can make use of God's strength if he is to stand up for God and faith in him for the sake of his fellow human beings. And therefore the coming battle of faith will be unavoidable, since a final clarification shall be achieved by a separation of spirits, that is of good and evil people, which will be particularly conspicuous in the end. Then there will only be people who live in love and strive to grasp God with all their senses, and those who ridicule and persecute everything that points to divine striving, who deny God and most vehemently hostile his followers, and who will not shy away from any means in order to achieve the goal of ousting God from people's thoughts. And there will no longer be undecided or fickle people who have not yet finally made up their minds. But anyone who is not for God and faith is completely against him and must be addressed as God's adversary. And this final separation of spirits must take place so that a time of spiritual blossoming can follow again which, although it will only begin on the new world, will nevertheless start after the completely deprived time before the end of the old earth. For those who stand in love and in truth will find each other and together survive the short time of the battle of faith and still prove the power of faith to the unbelievers on earth, so that a few will still be offered the last opportunity to cross over into the camp of those who are faithful to God. And before the end has come, a clear division will have arisen between the God-believing and the God-apostate people, whom God will now judge according to law and justice. But only a battle of faith will bring about this separation, and it has to be carried out with all tenacity, and it will make great demands on people who want to remain faithful to God, for the adversary's way of fighting is brutal and ruthless and can very easily persuade people to apostatize who are not entirely firm and feel secure of protection from above. Yet God remembers their adversity and is always ready to help. He will reveal himself to his own in the great adversity and strengthen them to resist until the hour of redemption from the danger has come for them. The spiritual battle is far more significant than the battle of nations against each other, for in the latter people only lose their temporal life, they lose or gain earthly goods, whereas now it is about their soul's life, which is everlasting and therefore has to be respected in a completely different way. No struggle is too difficult and no sacrifice too great if it concerns the salvation of the soul for eternity. And since people do not present themselves with the decisive question of whether they should strive for God or the world, the coming battle of faith must confront them with this question. And the decision will be difficult for those people who have not found God by themselves and yet do not want to betray him. The spiritual battle will require great strength which, however, can only be received from God himself. And the human being must now seriously seek contact with him if he wants to survive this battle. Yet the end will inevitably come, and it can be recognized by the fact that people become devils because of faith, for they seek to take the lives of those who give themselves to God, and they now take action against God himself. And this is the end. A spiritual turning point is imminent, but the old earth and its inhabitants do not experience it. A reshaping of the earth's surface is necessary so that a new redemption period will begin again with people who have a higher degree of maturity. And that is why there is a time of peace on the new earth where every spiritual or earthly fight is eliminated because people live in love and know about His will in closest union with God and eagerly strive to fulfill it. His will, however, is to live in the divine order, in love for God and one's neighbor. Amen.